Hi everyone, it's Miss Diaz. So here we are today with my friend Taylor. We went to college together. So remember when I sent you guys that survey out that you wanted to ask some questions or interview a scientist? We have her here today. I'm just going to read a quick disclaimer. So it says the findings and conclusions in this presentation are those of Taylor Robbins and do not necessarily represent the official position of the Centers for Disease and Control and Prevention. Okay, that being said, Taylor, can you introduce yourself very quickly? What is it that you do?
Yes. Hi, guys. My name is Taylor Robbins, and I'm an epidemiologist at the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which essentially just means that I study disease at the population level, including disease origin and then how to prevent disease and treat disease.
Wow, that's cool. So, like, you know a lot about how, like, diseases kind of, like, spread, right?
Yeah, that's basically what we do. I specifically work on HIV surveillance, so we track the HIV epidemic in the United States and the spread of HIV.
Wow, that's awesome. So I didn't even know that was still like a, I guess, issue in the United States, but that's really cool that you're working to tackle that problem that exists, clearly. Um, so what is it like to, or why do you like science? So that would be our first question, our general question of today. Why do you like science?
I like this question, and I haven't really been asked it in a long time. So I've liked science for as long as I can remember, but became especially interested in it when I took an anatomy and physiology class in high school. I was fascinated by the human body and how all of our organs function to keep us alive. When we did a lab experiment using cow hearts, I was completely sold, and I loved sticking my fingers in the aortas. Yeah.
Good joke, good joke. Nice jokes.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, nice. So we do living environment. That's our class. So that's something that we kind of go into when we study the human body. But I know in high school they do get to choose, like you did in high school, to take anatomy. So that's fun. You get to dissect things.
Yeah, I loved it.
So next question: what is it like to work as a scientist?
So in my experience as a scientist, it's a lot of fun. I genuinely enjoy going to work every day. I work with a dedicated group of public health professionals that sincerely care about protecting our nation's health, especially vulnerable at-risk populations.
Oh, awesome. So when you say taking care of vulnerable people, that means that people that may not have like the same resources as most people. So like people who are homeless, right? Or minorities, like, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So our target populations are low-income people or highly stigmatized populations. So LGBTQ persons or homeless people, people that are living on the street or don't have stable housing.
Awesome. And we always have to make sure, especially I guess it like the crisis right now of COVID-19, it really puts in perspective that we have to take care of everyone in our society. So that's awesome work that you do. It really shows that you are passionate. Yeah. Right. Next question. What are some diseases that are caused by pathogens, or can you give us a little information on like the differences between diseases that are caused by pathogens versus diseases that aren't caused by pathogens?
Sure. So a pathogen is an organism that causes a disease. So some examples of diseases caused by pathogens are viruses like HIV, COVID-19, or the flu. There are also bacterial pathogens that cause diseases like strep throat, a urinary tract infection, gonorrhea, or tuberculosis. Pathogens can also cause fungal infections like ringworm. And then there are parasitic infections like malaria or intestinal worms. Pathogenic diseases need a host to survive and replicate. So for instance, a human or an insect like a mosquito in the case of malaria. And then you asked how they're different from diseases that you're born with.
Mm-hmm.
So pathogenic diseases tend to be infectious in nature. So something you can catch, but it's oftentimes preventable or treatable. whereas diseases you're born with tend to be genetic in nature. So you can either inherit a disease from your parents or be born with a disease as a result of a genetic mutation.
Okay, so that puts it in perspective. So pathogens, so diseases for the most part that are caused by pathogens are preventable then?
Oftentimes, yeah, they are preventable. So like we can prevent the flu if we get a flu vaccine. We can prevent HIV if we practice safe sex and use clean needles if you're, a drug user. Yeah, and then diseases you're born with could be more genetic. Like an example of a disease you could inherit from your parents would be like sickle cell disease, which can cause anemia. Another example of a disease you can be born with but is not inherited from your parents would be something like Down syndrome, which is a genetic mutation and would result from having an extra chromosome.
Oh, cool.
Number
so we're
21.
actually going to learn about that next in reproduction.
Oh,
how different genetic
good
disorders
segue.
get passed down. Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, that's good to know the difference between different types of diseases. Some people get a little, I guess, they think that all diseases are clumped into one basket and they kind of just think that they should be treated in the same way. So I think it's really important to know the differences and what causes them and how to treat them and, what to do, because it makes us understand what's happening to us and everyone around us better. So thank you for clearing that up.
Sure.
Let's see some other questions, and maybe I'll shout out some people from the classes that asked some of the questions. Oh, so from period 3, so I have Valentina. So she wanted to know, how do we figure out that there is a new disease?
Yeah, that's a great question. So there are likely thousands, maybe even millions of diseases that exist that we don't know about yet, especially amongst animals. The way that humans find out that there's a new disease usually happens when someone gets sick with an illness for which there is currently no known cause or diagnosis. So a good example would be COVID-19, where patients were probably presenting with what appeared to be flu-like respiratory illness. Doctors likely tested them for flu or any other known illnesses to rule those diseases out. And then when tests kept coming back negative, they probably started to realize, oh, this is something new that we haven't seen before in a patient. And then they eventually figured out that it was in the coronavirus family, but that it was a new strain of the coronavirus called SARS-CoV-2.
Okay. So I guess what you're saying is like the way that they would figure out that there's a new disease is if they use the tests that we already have available to test for diseases that already exist. And if you test negative for all of those, then they start to study to see whether or not it's a new disease. Is that right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Usually you want to start with what is known, what you know about. So it's like, let's run all these tests that we already know exist. And then then you can start ruling things out and then go from there.
Awesome. See, guys, I'm actually writing notes right now. It's like, I'm like, oh, I'm not going to remember all of this. So I need to make sure I write this down because it's like really good information. Just thinking like
I can send you my notes.
Please, thank you. Let's see, next question. So I guess it's just a general question. You kind of mentioned it before, since you are an epidemiologist, which means that you study how diseases spread, right? So we had a student from period 4, Nicole. So shout out to Nicole. She had a question: was how did coronavirus spread, or COVID-19? I guess she's saying specifically, and yeah, basically, how does a disease or a pathogen specifically spread?
Yeah, that's another great question. So COVID-19 is something we're still learning about, right? But what we do know is that COVID-19 is caused by a coronavirus called SARS-CoV-2. And coronaviruses are a large family of viruses that are common in people and many different species of animals, including camels, cattle, cats, and bats. Sometimes animal viruses can infect people and then they can spread from person to person. And this is what happened with MERS-CoV and SARS-CoV. This might be before your time.
Yeah.
And now this is what's happening with COVID-19. So the SARS-CoV-2 virus, which causes COVID-19, is a beta coronavirus like MERS and SARS. And all three of these viruses have their origins in bats. So the sequences from the US patients that we've seen here are similar to the ones that China initially posted, suggesting that likely a single source, like a recent emergence of this virus, is from a single animal reservoir. However, they're still trying to track the exact source.
Okay. Wow.
But likely from a bat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the origin started from the bat. Wow. So it's crazy.
So like
how,
a bat to an animal and then to a human. Yeah.
Okay. So it's like a chain reaction, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I mean, like, it's crazy to think how, like, diseases from animals can actually affect humans. And we never think, I feel like as a kid, I never really made that connection that, like, animals can get you sick. But
yeah,
that's why mom always freaks out to, like, make sure you clean the counter when you cook food, or, like, make sure you know where your food is coming from too, or, like, what you're eating is very important because diseases can spread from animals to humans.
Dead or alive, yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's important to note that it's more rare, but it can happen. So it's something to think about.
Okay. So we're gonna jump into another question from period 4. I don't know if this is going a little off topic. Actually, no, I'm gonna skip down to period 5 because it'll say more on topic. So we'll shout out to period 5, and we have Gianna, who asked the question, how can we make sure that we have a strong or maintain a strong immune system?
Yeah, this is always a good question and something important to think about, especially when something like COVID-19 is happening. But a good way to just make sure you have a strong immune system is to exercise regularly, to eat right, including lots of vegetables and fruits, drink a lot of water, and make sure that you get enough rest. Enough sleep at night, so at least 8 hours. It seems pretty simple, but I feel like that's really the best way to make sure that you have a functioning and healthy immune system.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like a lot of at least I can say a lot of the complaints that I get from my students are that they don't sleep a lot, or they don't care to go to sleep, and like whatever. I'd rather stay up all night and then wake up, and then a lot of them just don't get enough sleep. And I think that's a big thing that people don't realize that really helps boost your immune system is proper diet, exercise, water, hydrating, and sleeping at least 8 hours. So
yeah, I think people underestimate how important sleep is, but you really put your immune system becomes more susceptible to illnesses when you don't get enough rest.
Yeah,
You run yourself down. Yeah.